Good evening. My name is Jim Matulski, and I'd like to welcome you this evening to Peace United Church here in Duluth. We're so glad that you're here this evening, and I'm sorry it's for this occasion. We wanted to convene a gathering of people to remember, to pray, to be silent together, and also to act, to commit ourselves to action. Sorry about that. To commit ourselves to action and to connect the events that took place in Buffalo. To remember also there was a church shooting in Southern California last weekend also. Also to acknowledge and mourn what happened yesterday in Uvalde, Texas. So all of these events and the ongoing epidemic of gun violence and the intersection also of racism and unchecked white supremacy, all of these things taking place. So this is why we're here. And we have a number of speakers that you'll be hearing from shortly. So I'll say this, once again we gather as we have so many times to mourn lives lost and to share our grief, our anger, our sorrow, and our fear. Tonight we pay special tribute to those who died in Buffalo, Laguna Woods, and Uvalde, Texas.
Those who died in Buffalo, Robert Ridley, Margaret D. Morrison, Andrew Newman, Aaron Salter, Geraldine Kelly, Celestine Chin, Hayward Patterson, Catherine Massey, Pearl Young, Ruth Whitfield.
5 adults in Irvine Taiwanese Presbyterian Church, Laguna Woods, California.
2 teachers, Eva Morales and Irma Garcia, killed in Uvalde, Texas.
19 children killed in Uvalde, Texas.
Tonight we also remember a longer list of victims, and tonight we grieve not only for individual lives lost, but for a nation seemingly numb to violence and unwilling to stand against it. So I wanted to really connect us to what happened in Buffalo, and there's a lot of ways to do that, but I want to bring into the room tonight the prayer service that took place just a week ago in Buffalo, where Reverend Al Sharpton spoke. And so I just have a short clip from that we'll see. And he's in Buffalo again tonight to continue to conduct funerals this week that have been ongoing now for several days. So let's just listen to how one community several hundred miles away is experiencing still this tragedy.
As people began snatching and grabbing parts of the story and start trying to put and piece things together, it occurred to me that we were trying to rationalize an irrational situation. Come on. First thing is, as someone mentioned, talking about he was just 18. Well, he was 18 when he figured out how to case the drug. He was 18 when he could write a manifesto. He was 18 when he could sit there and read all this stuff and internalize it. Replace folks that you were the place they came to. We're not replacing you. We're trying to correct what you've done since you got here. We've made this the richest country in the world. You came here because it was rich and wealthy, and we never got paid for building it. How dare you say we're replacing you? He knew that he'd have a bunch of us there because of the socio-economic placement. And with all that we've tried to do, we still do not have the right health services and food services where you got one supermarket. I mean, I'm not as smart as some of these preachers up here, but if you could figure out how to get millions of dollars for a state, and can't you get money to build a supermarket?
When Harvey Milk was assassinated in San Francisco, and it has many versions, but she innovated it that night. We are a gentle, angry people. I think the words are going to appear up here in a moment, but the words are this simple. We are a gentle, angry people. We are singing for our lives. And then there's a few changes each time for each verse. We are justice-seeking people. We are young and old together. We are a land of many colors. We are a loving, healing people, singing for our lives. I'm going to ask our mayor, Emily Larson, to come forward now. ask each of our speakers to introduce themselves too.
Thank you, Pastor Jim. Good evening. My name is Emily, and I work with all of you as mayor. And this isn't the first event any of us have been to together, where we're mourning and shocked. And I often find that one of the things that I have to start at my starting point, but when I'm asked to speak at a gathering of pain, is to remind us that grief is love. Grief is love just absolutely demonstrating itself. And for me, shock and disbelief is simply our hopes and norms being disrupted. That's also love. And that for me, anger often ties the two and the three together. And I appreciate that tonight feels sacred and special and quiet. But inside I am angry. I'm really angry that we continue to live in a place, in a world, in a country that believes it's okay to assert individual rights over a collective ability to freely exist. That we are afraid of what's possible when we prioritize our shared humanity. That we are unwilling to be uncomfortable enough to say that we all belong here and we belong to be safe. And I think what's important for me is less about what I say tonight, but what we feel. Because there is a world that is possible. These are choices that we have made. And that means that these are choices we get to unmake. It is possible to have universal background checks. It is possible to ban assault weapons. It is possible to ensure that kids in schools and nurses and hospitals and synagogues and mosques are safe. That is a world that is very possible. And so what I ask of you to consider tonight and in the coming days and weeks and months and years are really three things. There are three things that we can do, and the first is to shoulder each other, to check in on young kids and your young adults, because they're not okay, as we're seeing, and they're not sure what to do with that, right? But to shoulder each other, to reach out to our teacher friends and our school friends. And actually, one of the first things I did when I came into this room is actually put my head on Gary Anderson's shoulder. It's like we all need a shoulder sometimes, and we have to do that for each other. So we have to do that. And then the second thing is we get to fight. And we get to shoulder and support people who are doing the right work, and you're going to hear from some of those people tonight, but let me just say that we are all those people tonight. Being in a position that's elected doesn't mean that the fight is different. It's just, it's maybe a different scope, but we are all the support that we need tonight. But we get to fight. The world that we know is possible is absolutely possible. And so we get to prioritize our values and remind people that 90% of Americans are ready for policy change that makes us all safer. And that's the fight, and those are our values, and that's what we lead with. But the last thing that I hope you'll consider is just love. And I know it's corny, and I just don't care. Right? Like, love is the source of all of it. It is what we all need and want. And without that, we have nothing. So to love ourselves through this, to love the pain we're feeling as we go through it, to understand that that grief is love, whether we knew these kids, these families, these teachers, every incident, we know what it is to love people and what it would feel like to have that happen here. So I guess I leave you with that. The grief we feel tonight is love. And the disbelief is our disbelief in inequity and injustice. And that is right, and that is good, and that makes us angry, and that makes us act. So I'm here with you in all of those ways tonight. And I believe we are going to hear from Jennifer Schultz, who is our state representative, also happens to be on the ballot, but I will let you introduce yourself how you wish.
Good evening. My name's Jen Schultz. I'm state legislator for the east half of Duluth, which includes where you are right now. I'm also running for Congress. I think that's what the mayor was alluding to. I don't really know what more I can say to describe the horrific mass shooting in Texas yesterday or the mass shootings that preceded it. So many people, including children, needlessly dying. As a mother of boys who attend an elementary and middle school, I fear for their safety. If I lost a child, part of me would die. We not only lost 19 children and 2 teachers yesterday, we lost a piece of their loved ones, their moms, dads, grandparents, siblings, cousins, aunts and uncles, spouses. I'm sending my prayers to them, knowing that prayers are not enough. My youngest son had a lockdown training yesterday at his school. This is normal for him. This is not unusual. He came home, and after hearing about the shooting, told me he was glad I was running for Congress so I could fix this. My son and our kids shouldn't have to do these drills, and they shouldn't have to worry about getting killed in their school. These shootings are a senseless act of hate. Hate is killing innocent people. We are seeing more and more hate crimes, and we should be asking why? Why? Why so much hate? Why are we seeing so many brutal crimes to innocent people, innocent children? What is happening to our country and our humanity? Hate and senseless gun violence are unacceptable and must end. Those who oppose addressing gun violence talk about gun owners' rights. What about the rights of kids to be safe in their own school? What about the rights of their family to not have their kids horrifically targeted by someone with hate in their heart and a gun in their hands? I need your help. We must protect our communities and make addressing gun violence a priority. Gun violence should be used using a public health approach, just like we approach car safety. We need to pass laws that address gun violence, such as universal background checks, red flag laws, safe storage, protection orders, straw purchases, ending immunity for firearm companies, addressing ghost guns, researching smart guns. The majority of Americans and households with guns support these common sense solutions. In fact, the Minnesota House DFL, and I, as one DFLer in that body, passed many of these bills. Unfortunately, they didn't become law in Minnesota. I'm really sick of the thoughts and prayers we get from politicians who proudly take money from the NRA. We need action, and we need laws to make real change. We need our leaders to stand up to the gun lobby and pass meaningful legislation now. We need to do that now. And I'm proud of my grade of F. Being a straight A student my whole life, it's the only F I get, and it's from the NRA for my voting record to address gun violence. I honestly don't know how any respectable lobbyist can even work for the NRA or gun companies. They should all resign. Unfortunately, what I see in our country is hate motivating people more than love, hate. And I know everyone here will work hard to make sure that love can trump hate. Thanks, everyone.
folks. Thanks for being here tonight, for hosting. 1 month and 1 day ago, I walked through those doors at this church, and I went and picked up this basket of candles, and we handed them out to hundreds of Duluthians to mourn the loss of the Berry family here, just a couple blocks up that way. Those wounds are still fresh, and I still think about the Berry family and their loved ones every day. And that wasn't a long time ago. That was a month ago. But since that tragedy, there have been 67 mass shootings in this country in 12 different states. 84 people have lost their lives since that happened. And 287 more have been injured. And countless others, as I think Representative Schultz said, have lost a piece of themselves as well, including people in this community. Uvalde, Buffalo, Duluth, when does it end? 19 children and 2 adults at an elementary school. I remember the day that my daughter came home. She's a kindergartner at Lester Park, and she said that they had practiced if a wild animal got in their school that day. The first time she had a lockdown. How does that not rip your heart out? As Mayor Larson said, that doesn't have to be the reality. You know, how many of us hugged our kids or our loved ones last night and wept silently at the mere thought of the scope of what happened? You're not alone in your tears. Many of us shed them. And you're not alone in wondering how low we have to sink as a society before this epidemic finally touches the hearts of people who have the power to do something and continuously choose to do nothing. However, in spite of it all, I have hope tonight because of all of you, because of Joan, Jana, and Sarah, and all of those who make sure that we don't become numb to the tragedy. Because there is hope to choose a different path for both our communities and our country. Your presence here tonight shows that you reject apathy, desensitization, and the status quo. My thoughts and prayers are certainly with the victims and their families tonight. But my thoughts and prayers are also with the elected leaders who need to summon the political courage and grow a spine to finally do the right thing. What happened yesterday is the worst nightmare of any community, and we had our own nightmare 1 month ago. And as a parent with kids in school and a spouse who works at one of the high schools, I'm sure all of you have experienced it too, where we've had a lockdown, and you just pray that that day wasn't your community's day. But unless we do something about it, that day will come for all of us as it did not long ago. So may God bless all the people touched and impacted by this tragedy, and I appreciate you all being here tonight. I believe we have Nate Smith up next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nate Smith, and I'm here from the school district. I coordinate the Office of Education Equity for the Duluth Public Schools. So I'm here to say a few words on behalf of the Duluth Public School District and to offer love and prayers in a time of tremendous sorrow and unconscionable grief. We are heartbroken and overwhelmed with sadness for the loss of 19 beautiful children and 2 remarkable teachers yesterday. I realize when we see and we hear of acts of indescribable violence, it's natural to ask and wonder what our schools are doing to ensure the safety, as well as ask how I can talk to my children about this. Safety is a top priority in the Duluth Public Schools, and for many years now, we've heard from a couple speakers, we've been training our teachers and our staff and our students when they first walk into school on being prepared for intruder scenarios through the ALICE training. which is a training designed to help us be prepared for the unthinkable. In all of our schools, we have locked and secured entrances, which require electric buzz and entry. We have a crisis plan in place and is throughout the year. We also know that relationships and mental health care are extremely important in avoiding such situations and have invested deeply in social emotional learning, positive behavior interventions and supports, and other mental health supports. For when we talk to our kids about tragedies like this, the National Association of School Psychologists recommends to reassure children that they are safe and to review the safety procedures that we have in place. Create a sense of safety by returning to normal, predictable routines as soon as possible. Make time to talk and listen to the concerns and feelings of children. Limit the use of media consumption of these events to lower their stress and to maintain balance and perspective. Acknowledge that sleep difficulties are common and can lead to fatigue and poor participation in school. As we, as adults, navigate our own feelings and manage our own stress and distress, the American Psychological Association recommends that we reach out for support from other adults, friends, families, professionals, members of our community, like here, honoring our feelings and taking time for ourselves, especially if experiencing personal loss or grief, limiting the amount of media coverage of these events, and finding ways to help in your community. I've struggled to find the words to understand, let alone explain the profound feeling of loss we share as a school district and Duluth community for the people, families, and children in Texas and in other areas that have recently experienced violence. What words can I possibly offer to bring healing and hope in this time of despair and sheer pain when I myself am still navigating and processing this senseless act of evil? I do have an ask, a request, a demand, and a need, and an aspiration that we come together as a community to make sure every child in our community is looked after, is protected, and is safe. That every child in the community has the ability to get their needs met where they need them and when they need them. I have long come to the conclusion that we, as a school district, cannot do it alone. We need you, we need us, and we need our community coming together and working together, putting in time and putting in energy and effort to make sure every child in our community is successful. We need to create a movement and a change and a culture amongst our community that works collaboratively to meet the needs of all of our young people. We need to love each other as a community and recognize that it takes a village, that it takes a community to raise a child. If you're interested in being involved in education and being a part of the movement that's happening, please reach out. My name is Nate Smith, and I believe together we can achieve the success of all kids. With that being said, there's nothing that I can say to minimize the pain and the horror of what happened in Texas yesterday, but I assure you as a school district, we will do everything possible to make sure that our students are supported and that our schools are safe. I'm not sure who's next.
Good evening. My name is Stacy DeRoche, and I'm here representing our local PTAs and the Duluth parents, students, and staff that support our school families. The PTA is a voice for those families, and the PTA's position is clear. As the largest organization advocating for children in the United States, we believe it is our responsibility to stand for and with our school communities. National PTA continues to urge policymakers to prioritize legislation that provides funding to research gun violence, that bans assault weapons, and enforces universal background checks. We continue to demand action. Watching this happen again and again has been heartbreaking and exhausting. Please know that PTA is with you. We believe, as you do, that elected officials, community leaders, families, and educators must work together to prioritize school safety and end gun violence. We are frustrated, angry, and grief-stricken because every day we advocate for children, but we can't truly give reassurance and hope because we as a country haven't passed any laws to make substantial and substantive difference. PTA's position is that we need to demand that Congress pass common sense gun laws and give mental health support to our youth and adults. Someone on the National PTA Facebook page commented today that we need to make them fear the PTA like they fear the NRA. And while fear is not a word I would throw out lightly, I understand this person's passion. She was advocating that we use our collective voices and that we act boldly. Please count on us when you band together to act boldly and when you use your voices. Another day like yesterday is too painful to contemplate without a plan to move forward with decisive and purposeful action. Thank you.
My name is Joan Peterson. I'm the co-president of the Northland Brady chapter affiliated with Protect Minnesota. To echo the words of President Biden in his speech to the nation last night, I'm sick and tired. I have been here so many times before. A movement started in the year 2000 in Washington, D.C., the Million Mom March. That came on the heels of Columbine, and yet nothing happened. Another movement started after the Sandy Hook shooting, Moms Demand Action, and we have someone here from Moms Demand Action to speak. Another movement started after the Parkland shooting, March for Our Lives. Nothing's happened. It makes me angry, it's frustrating, it's hard to even know what to say. As my friend Gudrun and I were talking, there are really no more words. I really should be standing here saying nothing, because I think I've said it all before. I know I have. But this time, I've said this before, I said this after Parkland, I just feel a sense of anger that I haven't felt before because nothing's been done. And some of the words I've heard are insanity. This morning I heard someone say upside down. Everything is upside down. I would like to talk a little about PTSD. I know our students have suffered from PTSD. I know our teaching staff is suffering from it. I know communities are suffering from PTSD, and I think the whole country is suffering from PTSD from all of these shootings. This does not happen anywhere else in the world. There are angry people everywhere. There are people with mental illness. There are domestic violence incidents all over the world, but only in America do we have the easy access to guns. Only in America does this happen. And why is that? And I think we know. And I keep hearing excuses. Well, this shouldn't be political. Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about this now. Don't make it political. Well, we'd never be able to talk then, because the last person from the Buffalo shooting was buried today, or yesterday, I think it was, while the shooting happened in Uvalde. We keep burying people, and it keeps happening over and over again. And when will it happen again? So I was asked in several interviews with the media today, what do I hope will happen? I don't know. I would like to hope that something will happen, and I'm on Twitter, and one of the hashtags we use is do something. Do something. Anything. One little thing even might help. It might help the next shooter. It might keep 19 more kids from losing their lives. It is heartbreaking. It's the ripple effect. It's starting to affect almost everybody. There aren't too many people left in the country who don't know somebody who's been affected by a shooting. And it's clearly a public health epidemic that is going without a cure, without a solution. There's hate, there's racism, there's anger, but yet today I heard a lot about mental illness. It's mental illness, and let's not talk about the guns. Well, we're going to talk about the guns. We have to talk about the guns. And I'm going to keep talking about the guns. I don't know what everybody else is going to do, but that's the ingredient. That's the bottom line. Today, some of the names started to come out of the people who lost their lives in the school shooting in Texas. I'm going to read a few of the names. And if you haven't already, the photos of the Buffalo shooting victims are over here. There are roses over there, one for every victim from the shooting in Texas. Thanks to Elise Cartwright from Peace Church for putting that all together. So here are some names. Amarie Jo Garza, age 10. Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez, age 10. Eliahana Cruz Torres. Ellie Lugo Garcia. Eva Morales, age 44. Irma Garcia. Jackie Cazares, age 10. Jose Flores, age 10. Nevea Bravo. Rogelio Torres, age 10. Uzlea Garcia, age 8. Xavier Lopez, age 10. Those are just a few. And I always say in social media and other places, say their names, look at their faces. That's very important. And for those of us, like I, have been affected by gun violence when my sister was shot in a domestic shooting, the PTSD is real. It happens for us every time there's another shooting. So think of the victims, think of the survivors, and think of those poor families in Texas. They'll never be the same.
My name is Gary Anderson. Faith is not a feeling. Faith demands action. It's a gift to be here tonight. I have the honor of serving as the 1st District City Councilor here in Duluth. But I want to speak to you tonight with awareness of many of my identities. I'm a member of this congregation, Peace United Church of Christ. I'm a cisgender male, openly gay and married, middle class, able-bodied, white, a brother, friend, grandpa, with many privileges and advantages in life. Like most of us here today, I was raised in our country's dominant culture of Christianity an advantage which is given to people who look like me. As a political leader and a person of faith, I strive to accept my share of responsibility for changing the culture of violence that is taking the lives of our children, grandchildren, friends, neighbors. It is especially important to call out the particular brutality directed toward people of color. All of this happening even as we sit here tonight. The daily onslaught of violence in our country must end. Politicians who claim to stand for the protection of the sanctity of life must be held accountable. To support and create gun safety legislation, including universal background checks and red flag laws and more. Ultimately, we must address many issues, including but not limited to income inequality, health disparities, and under-resourced public education that are at the core of our cultural despair and the root of gun violence. Every one of us who is able must vote. We must participate in our flawed system, and at the same time, we must shake the hell out of our culture that advantages some over others. What I know, what I am sure of, is that living in denial of our personal responsibility is not an acceptable posture. We must live our lives awake. Awake in our families, awake in our work, awake at the voting booth. I say it again, faith is not a feeling. Faith demands action.
My name is Jana O'Brien. I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I'm here today as a mother, a daughter, a friend, and an ally. Enough is enough. We are absolutely devastated for everyone impacted by these senseless acts of violence. Yet again, gun violence has forced its way into our schools and communities, leaving nothing but devastation, trauma, and tragedy in its wake. 10 people killed in a grocery store. 19 students and 2 teachers killed in an elementary school. We need more than thoughts and prayers. As you've heard from all the speakers, we demand action from our lawmakers now. We are grieving with the Buffalo and Uvalde communities and everyone else impacted by these senseless acts of violence. Just more tragic examples of how pervasive this public health crisis is in our country. Thanks to our weak gun laws and the gun lobby's relentless guns everywhere agenda, nowhere is safe. Not a grocery store, not a school. We deserve to live without fear. Our children deserve to learn and live without fear. Every day, it becomes harder and harder to send our children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and loved ones to schools that don't feel safe. And this isn't a new phenomenon. Every day in the United States, more than 110 people die from gun violence, and hundreds more are wounded. That's not even taking into account as another speaker said, those of us who have a piece of us taken by that violence as well. Our gun violence crisis is a preventable tragedy, and for far too long, many of our so-called leaders have only offered thoughts and prayers. There has never been a more important time for our state and federal lawmakers and local school boards to take action on common sense policies and programs that are proven to make schools and communities safer. The horrifying truth is that far more students experience gun violence at home or in their communities than at school. And this gun violence impacts students' ability to concentrate, learn, and succeed in the classroom. To build positive, safe school environments where students can thrive, we need to address gun violence wherever it affects students, not just within school walls. We won't accept a country where gunfire can ring out at any moment, whether it's at a supermarket in Buffalo, a home in Duluth, or schools across the country. We deserve more. We cannot and will not accept a reality in which our children aren't safe in schools or their communities. We need more than thoughts and prayers from lawmakers. We demand action now. If they won't vote with us, we'll vote them out.
Good evening. I'm David Steinberg. I'm the rabbi of Temple Israel here in Duluth. Pastor Jim just invited me a couple of hours ago to say a few words here, and my response to him was, I really feel the need to be here, and I'm still sort of overwhelmed and gut-punched by this news, and I don't know that I have words to express just yet. But many of my colleagues in the rabbinate have already been, publishing a whole bunch of really thoughtful words, and I'm going to share here a poem that was written earlier today by my colleague, Rabbi Nina Mandel, and Rabbi Nina is the rabbi of Congregation Beth El in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, and this is what she writes. Which words should I use? There are so many to choose, it seems a shame to try to find new ones. Maybe it is a waste of time even. Can I just use the ones from Columbine when I wondered if we would ever wipe the blood of these children off our hands? Or the ones from Sandy Hook where I condemned our leaders for looking away? Maybe the ones from Parkland when I was angry and demanded action. I found words for the school shootings and the terrorist attacks. Somehow found something to say about worshipers gunned down in the act of sacred gathering, something about people murdered in Walmart. I have drawn from the texts I inherited. Do not do this. Do not stand by that. Always remember. Never forget. I taught how Abraham argued with God to save just one life, how Rachel sat by the road and wept. I echoed the prophets who specialized in finding the words for despair. I gathered the gleanings from my colleagues and friends who were able to be more articulate than I. Or maybe there will be no words, no vigils, no letters to the editor or Facebook posts, no altars for candles and teddy bears, no petitions, angry protests, or briefings, no rehashing of homilies and prayers, just abandoned attempts at messages and sermons of consolation, just sitting and staring into the face of despair, refusing to blink. Foolish me, writing words to say that I have no words, knowing that I will share these words so that others will know that I have none that are adequate. Foolish me, all I really have are words. Rabbi Nina Mandel. In our traditional Jewish daily prayers, we do actually have some words that come to mind and that I find to be of comfort. I wonder if our sages of old who composed these words could have imagined the situation we have in the United States today, where we experience rampant gun violence and where profound political cowardice in the face of the gun lobby hinders efforts to address the problem. However, those sages did know what it was like to be fearful. So they composed this prayer, which is traditionally recited by Jews every evening, as I will do for you now. And this is a version from the Reconstructionist prayer book, Kol HaNeshama. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chayim, ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha, v'taknenu v'etzah tova milfanecha, v'hoshienu l'ma'an shemecha, v'hagein ba'adenu, v'aser me'aleinu, oyev, dever, v'cherev, v'ra'av, v'yagon. Uv'tzel kenafecha tastirenu, ki el shomrenu umatzilenu ata, ki el melech hanun v'rachum ata. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu l'chayim u'shalom me'ata v'ad olam, ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha, baruch ata Adonai, shomer am Yisrael, v'chol yoshvei tevel la'ad. Help us to lie down, Adonai our God, in peace, and let us rise again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Decree for us a worthy daily lot, and redeem us for the sake of your great name. Protect us and keep from us enemies, illness, sword, famine, and sorrow. Enfold us in the wings of your protection, for you are our redeeming guardian. Truly a sovereign, gracious, and compassionate God are you. Guard our going forth each day for life and peace, now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Blessed are you, compassionate one, whoever guards the people Israel and all who dwell on earth.
I want to ask us to tap into one of our best resources for bringing about change right now, our bodies, our feelings. I'm a veteran of a lot of social change movements, gay movements, AIDS movement. I never felt stronger than I did fighting AIDS, which was impossible. People said it was impossible. And we learned to say, act up, fight back, fight AIDS. And it was something that, much like this struggle, made us feel numb through loss and grief, and made us feel defeated on a daily basis, where for 15 years there was no change medically or legislatively, and where there's a lot of stigma but we never gave up. And it's partly because we learned to tune into the one thing that no one else had control over, that the FDA couldn't control, the government couldn't control, our bodies, our feelings. And I think we need to summon that resource now when we feel like grief is paralyzing us and the task is overwhelming us because there is no change, just death. And the powers that are in control seem impervious to change no matter what we do. I learned back then that when my eyes were burning and I couldn't express what I was feeling, that I needed to cry. And I recognized that feeling. It took me years to recognize it. Burning eyes. Oh, Jim, you need to cry. You don't need eye drops. And I felt it this morning watching the news when I saw the picture of the little girl who was holding her honor roll certificate that she had just earned proudly minutes before she was killed. Burning eyes. And then I cried. Then I cried again later today. And then yet again, I'm glad I can now access my grief more quickly, because grief is very powerful, and we need to find the grief place. And so first I want to urge you to find the part that doesn't feel anymore. It's very powerful. And the other is anger. Now, I am an ex-Texan, among other things, and I used to pastor the biggest gay church in the world in Dallas, biggest gay church. So I learned, if you're a gay person in Texas, and I'm pro-choice, pro-immigrant, so it was easy for me to get mad at the governor of Texas on a daily basis. It's not hard for me to summon that. Today, every time I saw I'm getting political here, every time I saw the governor of Texas, I found my anger spot pretty quick. I'm not trying to blame him and say it's all his fault. But you know what? Finding that anger spot was helpful. And I want to urge you to find your anger spot, whatever that is. Don't become immune to anger or to grief. Find your eye-burning grief and your want to scream at the television anger, and summon them and fuse them. Because right now, we need to tap that mad, sad reserve and translate it into action. Or nothing will happen. It's going to take that and a bunch of else. But the other thing I learned during AIDS is this: we do it together. When you get a bunch of really sad, really angry people working together, what seems impossible can, over time, be transformed. I've seen it. I testify to it right now. I'm alive because of it. So, this is the resource I want us to find and funnel and use to fuel so that we don't need to be doing what we're doing tonight a year from now, because this can be changed.
In 2018, the Episcopal Bishops Against Gun Violence wrote a litany, and they have updated it again and again and again and again. And we're going to invite you to be a part of our reciting of that tonight by singing a response that Nathan's going to teach you at the moment.
So I'll sing first, you can sing after me so you can get comfortable with the song. The storm rages, sing that. The storm rages. Next part, listen. Peace, be still. Try that. Peace, be still. Listen here. The storm rages. Peace, be still. Try that all. The storm rages. Peace, be still. That's the whole thing.
O Holy One, we remember all those who have died in incidents of mass gun violence in this nation's public and private spaces. 6 dead at the Wisconsin Sikh Temple, 12 dead at an Aurora, Colorado movie theater, 28 dead at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut, 6 dead at Santa Monica College, California, 7 dead at a Hialeah, Florida apartment complex.
The storm rages. The storm rages. Peace, be still.
"13 dead at the Washington Navy Yard, 4 dead at Fort Hood, Texas, 7 dead in Isla Vista near UC Santa Barbara, 5 dead at Marysville Pilchuck High School in Washington, 6 dead in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania."
We sing, the storm rages, peace, be still.
Nine dead at Emmanuel AME in Charleston, South Carolina. 16 dead at a San Bernardino, California office. 10 dead at Umpaka Community College, Oregon. 6 dead in Kalamazoo, Michigan. 4 dead at a Heston, Kansas office.
The storm rages, peace, be still.
"5 dead at a Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania backyard party, 50 dead at Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, 5 dead at Cascade Mall in Burlington, Washington, 5 dead at Fort Lauderdale Airport, 4 dead in Fresno, California.
The storm rages, peace, be still.
Eight dead in Lincoln County, Mississippi. 4 dead at an Eaton Township, Pennsylvania supermarket. 9 dead at a Plano, Texas football watching party. 59 dead at a Las Vegas, Nevada concert. 27 dead at First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas.
The storm rages, peace be still.
17 dead at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. 5 dead at the Veterans Home in Yountville, California. 4 dead at a Nashville, Tennessee Waffle House. 10 dead at Santa Fe High School, Texas. 5 dead at the Capital Gazette newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland.
The storm rages, peace be still.
Four dead at the Fifth Third Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. 4 dead at a Rite Aid distribution center in Aberdeen, Maryland. 11 dead at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 13 dead at a bar in Thousand Oaks, California. 5 dead at a bank in Sebring, Florida.
The storm rages, peace be still.
Five dead at their homes in Ascension and Livingston parishes, Louisiana. 6 dead at an industrial park in Aurora, Illinois. 4 dead at a home in Clinton, Mississippi. 4 dead in Solon Township, Michigan. 13 dead at a municipal building in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
The storm rages, peace be still.
Four dead at the Gilroy Garlic Festival in Gilroy, California. 22 dead at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. 10 dead in the Oregon district of downtown Dayton, Ohio. 8 dead on the road between the cities of Odessa and Midland, Texas. 5 dead in their home in Elkmont, Alabama.
The storm rages, peace be still.
Four dead at a bar in Kansas City, Kansas. 4 dead at a backyard football watch party in Fresno, California. 6 dead in a cemetery and kosher market in Jersey City, New Jersey. 6 dead at the Molson Coors complex in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 5 dead at a convenience store in Springfield, Missouri.
The storm rages, peace be still.
5 dead in the northeast side of Indianapolis, Indiana. 8 dead at 3 spas in Atlanta, Georgia. 10 dead at a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. 4 dead at an office complex in Orange, California. 5 dead at a home in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
The storm rages, peace be still.
Nine dead at a FedEx facility in Indianapolis, Indiana. 7 dead at a birthday party in Colorado Springs, Colorado. 10 dead at a rail yard in San Jose, California. 4 dead at Oxford High School in Oxford Township, Michigan. 5 dead in Lakewood and Denver, Colorado.
The storm rages, peace be still.
Five dead at the church in Sacramento, California. 6 dead in downtown Sacramento, California. 10 dead at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. 22 dead at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. All those who have died in any incident of gun violence.
The storm rages, peace be still.
We wanted to give the final word tonight to one of the young Parkland survivors, David Hogg. You might have seen him on the news many places, but in the last day. And this is from an interview last night. He's coming to Duluth on October 1st. Peace Church is bringing him here to do a peace rally, an anti-gun violence rally. You'll hear more about that in the weeks and months to come. And I have copies of his book, Never Again. If you're interested in it, see me afterwards. I'll give you a copy. Let's let one of the young Parkland survivors speak to us tonight as we leave, or just before we leave.
David, you're going through it again tonight. President Biden
can do is focus on what is just one thing that we can agree on as Americans. We know what we disagree on. I'm not here to debate anyone. I'm not here to listen to your thoughts and prayers over and over again. I want to see what is the one thing we can do, just one thing. I'm not saying it's going to eradicate gun violence entirely. That's never going to happen in the United States so long as there are 400 million guns here. What are we going to do to even just save one life? And I think what that can be is universal background checks, something that the vast majority of Americans support. And I think we can do it. We need Republican senators to get on board with it. We need to have a conversation about what can we agree on and stop talking and debating what we can't, because these kids are dying as a result.
David, you'd need, according to the current rules of the Senate, 10 Republican senators to join on this universal background checks proposal. That seems difficult tonight.
Extremely, unfortunately, and it shouldn't be. You know, whoever it takes, I don't care if it's me, I don't care if it's another senator, I don't care if it's a congressman, whoever it is, somebody needs to have a conversation, not just with these Republican senators, but with Republicans in general, and say, look, we've been doing what the NRA and these other groups have said for years, and regardless of whether or not you're a gun owner, not a gun owner, a liberal or a conservative or whatever you are, we all can agree as Americans that this should not be happening. Kids should not be dying in their schools and their communities on a daily basis. Young people should not be, grandmas should not be dying in their grocery stores like happened in Buffalo, right? That barely made it on the news because unfortunately that's how common this is becoming. We as Americans need to realize that our union isn't just imperfect, it is severely broken right now because we can't even do the basic duty of government of ensuring the domestic tranquility, as our founding fathers talked about. And if we can't do that, we have to figure out how to, either with the current people that are in power or by changing who is in power. Not just Democrats or Republicans, but morally just leaders that don't focus and get in partisan BS matches where they follow people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, follow me and harass us to raise money, but instead focus on what can we do as Americans, not Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans to actually fix this issue because our future is dying with these kids every day. We have to figure out what we can do, even if it's small. It's not going to completely eradicate it, but we can do one thing. If we can just do one thing like background checks that show future generations that we are working on this and that we are not going to fail them. because that's what caused the shooting at my high school, and that's what caused this one.
David.
Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you to my colleagues, Jim Popsisil, Elise Kortreit, Charlotte France, and Nathan Holst, and all the people who helped make this possible. Thank you to all the speakers from the groups who came. We really appreciate your presence here, and thank you to everyone who joined us on the live stream and who came out tonight. Let's stand and sing Keep Your Eyes on the Prize. It's on the little orange sheet that you got in connecting us again, Buffalo to Uvalde. Paraphrase Mother Jones as we leave. Keep the dead in your heart. Fight like hell for the living. Go in peace.